Hey everybody, we've got a lot to record today, so you're gonna get used to seeing this sweatshirt on because I'm kind of wrapping up the videos that we will be doing for the rest of the semester. Usually around this time I'd be pointing everybody to the syllabus and pointing out that although it looks like we have some time left in this class, there's really not a lot of time for me to do stuff. I have maybe 2 or 3 more days in which I'll speak to you. If you look at the rest of the syllabus, the end of the semester is taking tests, peer review, turning stuff in, going to the library. I typically don't do anything for the last 5 classes of the semester. So we'll be busy the next couple weeks kind of wrapping things up, and then I kind of pass the baton on to you and let you take over. Keep a very close eye on the syllabus moving forward. We have a lot of due dates coming up, a lot of things that you need to kind of prepare for and get in so that we can wrap up this course and be done. Okay. Of course, the first due date is today. The 4th essay should be turned in by now. If you have not emailed me your division and classification essay with the final copy, and it should be very clear which one that is, the 3 peer review sheets, and the rough draft, pause this video and do that right now. Okay, remember, if I don't get it during class time, it's late. If I don't get it after or by midnight, I don't get it at all. So if you haven't done that, do that right now. Okay. The other thing I need you to do now, if you haven't already, is call up the assignment sheet for the 5th essay. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'll be going over some of the high points of that assignment sheet. But this one is a real important one for 2 reasons. One, per the syllabus, everybody must score a C- or above on this assignment to move on to 101. Okay? I don't care if you've gotten A's on your first 4 essays. If you bomb this essay, you're showing me that you can't do 101 work, and that I can't send you to 101. So a C- is not a huge bar to set, but everybody needs to at least get a C- on this assignment to pass. Okay? We'll be going over it step by step. I'll be working with you. Everybody should make that no problem, but don't blow this assignment off. Okay? It's important. Okay, so the assignment sheet is up. Okay, again, if you haven't pulled that up and taken a look at it, I'd advise you to do so. Maybe just open it on your computers. You can follow along, or you want to pause and read it over. I'll be going over some of those highlights, and you'll know exactly what you need to do. Okay, all right, so this assignment is an argumentative essay with research. Okay, a couple things that set it apart. It must be 6 paragraphs, just like the last essay. It'll have an intro, 3 body paragraphs, a counter-argument, and a conclusion. Okay, we'll be talking about counter-arguing and how that works in more detail in the next couple of days. I'm going to ask you to turn in a rough draft very soon. What I'd advise is if you're unclear on how to do the counter-argument, and I'll talk a little bit about that today, but turn in the rough draft with just the intro, the 3 body paragraphs, and the conclusion, and then you and I can discuss the counter-argument. Okay. You will need to do 1 print outside source for this assignment. Okay? By print, I'm going to say very clearly, you cannot use the internet. Okay? We'll talk more about this in the future when we get to research, because I don't want you to start the research right now. But as you start to think, you do not want to use the internet for this assignment. It has to be something that has been published in a book or a magazine. Okay? We'll be having a virtual library tour in a couple of days, and I'll show you how to access those materials. But if you're thinking about Googling something and putting it in your paper, get that idea out of your head right now. You need to get a C- or above on this paper, and you will not do so if you use the internet for your research. Okay? When I say you need to use 1 source, what I mean is you need to use 1 source 1 time. Okay? 99% of this paper is going to be yours, which is why I'm asking you to turn in a rough draft before we start the research. Okay? You need to make an argument on something that you're comfortable with and you can argue without looking anything up. Because aside from 1 sentence in this essay, you are writing this essay by yourself. Okay? I'm going to have you write a rough draft, turn it into me, make sure it looks okay, and then we're going to ask ourselves, well, what can we do to bolster this argument a little more? Which one of my claims is probably the weakest, or what's the 1 source I could find that could make this argument even stronger? Okay. I've learned over the years that people in high school are taught research differently. Okay, they're given a topic that they don't really understand. Okay, they say you have to write about fish migration, okay, which people don't know about and don't care about. Okay, so they go and they read 20, 30 sources on fish migration and synthesize the paper. Okay, take some of this source and put it here, we take some of this source and put it here. What you get in the end is something that's a synthesis of different people's opinions rather than your opinion. So when I go back and I ask, well, what did you write about this? They say, well, I wrote part of the thesis, I added those transitions, and I added this sentence here. Okay, that's not what I want. That's not what any of your teachers are going to want in 101 or 102, unless they explicitly say so. Okay, the importance of an essay at this point is what you think. Okay, your ideas, your thoughts. All right. I used the analogy of the bar fight last video, I believe. Talked about how research is designed to bolster you, okay, set you up. Right? So you're making the arguments. Okay, you're putting forward what you believe. Okay, and you're going to use research to defend those ideas. But it's always you first, and the research comes to support you. Okay? So I'm really trying to teach that with this essay. You're going to write the draft first. Okay, I believe you're going to turn it in next week. No research. Okay, I'm going to grade that essay as if that's your essay. Okay, and then we're going to ask ourselves, what's the one thing I could find to make this argument stronger? Okay, if I had one statistic, one fact, how could I really hammer home this point? Okay, so think of it in those ways. All right, you're going to start the essay. You're going to go with the topic that you care about, that you believe in, that you can defend, and then after we have the draft done and it looks good, we're going to find one thing to kind of even make it stronger. Okay, that cannot be the internet source. You can only use that one time. Okay, so you're going to really ask yourself, what's the best thing that I can find and put in here? Okay, all right, so a lot of where this assignment can go wrong is with topic selection. Okay, you want to pick something that you can argue, that you could sit down and write right now, perhaps. Okay, you'll notice on the assignment sheet, if you've looked at it, that there's a number of topics that you cannot choose. All right, let me check my notes here. You cannot do gun control, abortion, cloning, drug legalization, and the death penalty. Okay, do not send me an email later today asking me if you can write about the legalization of marijuana. Okay, those 5 topics are off. Okay, and I'll give you a few reasons why. A, they're done to death. Okay, you're not going to say anything original about abortion. The minute you tell me you're going to write an abortion essay, I know which side, whichever side you're on, I know what arguments you're going to make. Okay, 2, you're not going to solve any of those issues. Okay, you're not going to write the 6-paragraph gun control essay that fixes everything. Okay, if you're sitting here right now looking at this video thinking, well, he's wrong, I can write 3 pages and solve this forever, I'll tell you what, contact me and tell me. All right, if you do it, if you write 2.5 pages that solves the gun control debate forever, all right, everybody's going to read it and say, oh, that's it, we're done. Okay, I'll give you an A+. Okay, I'm going to warn you though, don't be surprised if I take your essay and I take it to the copy machine and I cover up your name and I Xerox it and then I send it off. And then in a year or so from now, you're watching TV and you see me on TV, probably with this sweatshirt with a really big check with a lot of zeros, and they're saying, Nobel Prize winner Bill Nedrow wins Peace Prize for his essay, blah, 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 blah. Okay? And you get really upset at that point. You'll be like, man, that fucker plagiarized, right? He stole my ideas. That's my essay. And you'll be right. I mean, you have every right to be upset. What I will do is wrong. And there will be enough zeros on that check that I will forgive myself. I will find a way to make that okay with myself. You might call you might call and say like, hey, I need to speak to Bill. He stole my essay. And my butler will be like, on my private island, will be like, I'm sorry, Mr. Nedrow's sipping lemonade by the beach right now. He can't take your calls. And the other thing with these arguments, like not only have I heard them so much, and they're so unoriginal, but I've gotten the stupidest arguments on some of these things, right? The reason I eliminated cloning, I swear this is true, I couldn't make it up. Years ago, I got an essay on cloning. This is right after Michael Jordan retired. And so this guy wrote this essay on cloning, right? And he said, this was his argument, right? Cloning should be illegal because if cloning were legal, the Bulls would just clone Michael Jordan, and then they'd have like 6 Michael Jordans, and then who would play center? how do we even grade something like that, right? He doesn't even understand what he's writing about. Okay, so I said, that's it. That's off the list. You can't do those things. All right. The final reason that I eliminate those is like, they're like generic go-to things that people think that they should be writing about, but why? Do you really, really deeply care about some of those issues? Or is it just one of those brainstorming topics that teachers in 8th grade gave you that, you know, they thought is controversial and you should write about? So totally, look, to succeed in this assignment, you want to pick something that you care about, okay? Something you can write about. So I would much rather have why your brother should move out of the basement because he's sucking your parents' wealth and not doing anything with his life than migration patterns of whales in Argentina. Okay? We're gonna be recording for another 20-25 minutes, so I'm not sure why you're lurking here. It's my wife, everybody. Okay, so think personal. Think something that you care about deeply, but means something to you, all right? Raise your hand right now if you have a friend who's dating somebody you disapprove of. Okay, so I would much rather have an essay about why Lisa should break up with Brad than why we should put an oil embargo on China. Okay, you know about Lisa, you know about Brad. You can use the things that we've been talking about up to this point to illustrate those. Okay, we talked about the narrative essay. Why? So you can talk about how Brad's cheating on Lisa and how she felt when you caught him. Okay, we've talked about compare and contrast. You can compare him to this other guy who's been flirting with her. All right. You can describe how she feels every time she texts him and knows that he's not responding back. Okay, so this doesn't have to be a huge, big topic that is going to require 20-30 sources. If you want to write about how you think your parents should like your grandparents in the basement because they keep trying to sneak out and party during this whole lockdown, do it. Okay? If you want to write about how you think that teachers at Triton College should all wear suits instead of sweatshirts, do it. Okay? Take something that means something personally to you and go with that. Right? Toward that end, I'm asking everybody tonight, by tonight, you have to email me your thesis. All right? Not just your topic, but your thesis. I want to know exactly what your argument is. Okay? Again, you're looking ahead and you're saying, hey, Bill, I was going to blow this off for 2 weeks. This isn't due for 2 or 3 weeks. We don't have that much time. Okay, I'm requiring a draft the day we go to the library so that I can look it over and make sure it looks good, and then we're going to get into the research. Okay, so you've got maybe a couple days to put this first draft together and show it to me. All right? So think personally rather than globally. Think about your community. Think about hobbies you're into. Think about sports. Think about friends you have. All right. Choose topics that mean something to you and you could write about right now. All right. I'll check my notes here. Okay. I'm talking a little bit about counter-arguing right now. I'm going to spend more time talking about that in the future, but just to give you an idea of what counter-arguing is. All right. You got your thesis. This is what I'm trying to prove. Okay. Everybody who's watching one of these videos should send me $10. All right. My 3-body paragraphs support that thesis, just like we've always done. Okay. 3 reasons why I think you should send me $10. All right. You ever gotten in a fight with somebody who knows they're right, who thinks they're right, and everything they say is informed by that belief? Okay. So whatever argument you make doesn't matter because they're right, and therefore you're wrong because they're right. And everything you say gets negated because they're right, right? They take that as the starting point and just refuse to look at any other thing, right? When we talk about argumentation, we're not talking about the type of thing you do with your girlfriend where she screams at you and throws dishes. Okay? Academic arguing assumes a couple things. That your opponent disagrees with you, which I will. Right? That's how I always grade papers. I read the thesis, and then I take the opposite stance until I'm done. I never grade based on what I believe. You're never going to know what I believe. My belief is always, whatever your thesis is, I disagree until I'm done grading that paper. Okay? But the second assumption is that it's a discourse with open-minded people who are listening and are willing to learn. Okay? So I disagree with you, but I'm interested in your arguments, and I want to learn from your arguments. Okay? So if I'm taking that position, it's incumbent upon you to do the same thing, right? You want to show that you're not that person who's just like, I'm right because everyone else is wrong. Okay? You want to show that, not that I believe this, but that I've looked at it from this position, and I've looked at it from this position, and after carefully weighing things objectively, there's that word again, I've come to this conclusion, right? All right, so your counterargument is partially your chance to show that. If your body paragraphs are your offense, your counterargument is your defense, okay? So an effective counterargument shows both sides, okay? You've got your 3 reasons why everybody should give me $10, okay? The counterargument gives you a chance to do 2 things. An effective counterargument does 2 things, sorry. One, it kind of flips over to the other side and shows what the other person's thinking, okay? It thinks like the opponent, all right, and tries to anticipate what the opponent might say or do, right? And then 2, if you can, a really effective counterargument negates that, okay? So I'm trying to convince everybody to send me $10, okay? I've given you 3 reasons why. The counterargument might say, I'm going to jump into the opponent's shoes for a minute and think like them, okay? Trying to figure out how they may respond, how they may think. Well, you know, like, times are hard right now, right? Like, it's like people are not working, the economy's kind of tanking. Like, it would be harmful for me to try to send you $10. And I'm gonna say, yeah, that's true, right? Like, I acknowledge, like, I'm hearing you, and I acknowledge that what you're saying is true. Times are tough. People aren't working as much right now. People don't have as much money. However, see, here's where I'm gonna try to refute it. All right, I'm gonna try to take that argument away so that the person can't use it against me. It's very true that everybody's suffering, but you're one person, right? You're not supporting a family. Me, I have 6 people in my family, right? And my wife right now isn't working as much because she's a photographer. She can't do her job and socially distance herself from people. So I'm hearing you. I understand what you're coming from. I hear that you're hurting. But my family's probably hurting more because I have 6 people. Therefore, your argument against mine isn't valid. You have to send me $10. Okay, I'll provide my address at the end of this video so that everybody can mail me a check or cash, whichever works best for you. Okay, so that's kind of a brief preview of counter-arguing. Later today, still wearing this sweatshirt, I'll record a kind of a longer, in-depth look at how counter-arguing works. But just so you can kind of start to think about how that may work right now, okay? If you want to wait to write that counter-argument paragraph until we get to that point, that's fine. When you do the assigned reading for next class, I'll point out a counter-argument in one of those 2 assigned essays. So make sure you do that reading, and we'll kind of look at one of those in practice. Okay, so topic selection, okay? Pick something personal to yourself, something that you can write about, something you care about. If you play a sport and there's an issue going on with that sport, write about that. If something's going on at work and you think your manager should fire Betty, write about that. Okay, or you think that your store should be completely closed, or you think that you should open at a certain time for people, whatever. If you have issues at home, issues with friends, issues with your car, pick something that you know about and you can write about. Okay, it has to be argumentative, but it doesn't have to be so hugely controversial that they're going to be talking about it on CNN tonight. Okay? That's another important thing that I should add. Make sure you don't have what's called a straw man argument. Okay? A straw man argument is where you set up opposition to something that sounds good, but there's really no argument on the other side. Okay? So every once in a while I get these thesis statements that's like, cancer is bad. Okay? And it's pretty easy to prove that, right? Like, you can find a lot of evidence to prove that cancer is bad. The problem is, nobody's out there writing essays that say, like, cancer is good, we should get cancer. Okay? So you get the same thing like, racism is wrong. Like, yeah, no doubt, we got the memo. right? Like there's nobody who's arguing for racism. Okay, now you might be thinking like, wait a minute, there's racist people out there, and there are, but there's nobody who's advocating for racism. Like we should be racist, right? They're writing essays saying like you should become a racist. Okay, even racists don't do that. They just think like I'm not racist. I just don't like those people. Police brutality. Okay, we've been talking about that with Dear Martin. Don't write an essay like police should stop beating people up. Like, yeah, nobody's advocating for police. You can't write an essay saying like police should beat more people up, right? So if you couldn't do the opposite, don't pick that topic. Okay, all right. So things you need to worry about moving forward. Read the chapter. First of all, if you haven't emailed me your paper, do that right now. Okay. Read the assignment sheet. Okay. Make sure that there are no questions. Okay. Note 6 body paragraphs or 6 paragraphs. C- or above. One source, one time. Okay. These are important things. Okay. So read that assignment sheet. Email me your thesis today. Okay. And then get going on that rough draft. We don't have a lot of time for this assignment, even though the syllabus makes it seem like we do. Okay, things that are coming up. The day we go to the library, which I think will be virtual, I need a draft. Okay, so I need to know exactly where you're at so that we can start to incorporate research. Connect is coming up. Okay, the due date is listed on this folder. It's due the midnight before the asset test or the AccuPlacer test. Okay, so whatever your score is at midnight, that's due, or that's what it is. Okay, so make sure you at least get above 70%. You cannot pass this course unless you have a 70 or above. If you're behind, it's time to work now. Okay. As I've said, I only have a few more things to record and get ready for you. The last couple weeks are on you guys. Okay, AccuPlacer test, library, tour, peer review, turn in the paper, take the test. I might record everything I have to record for the rest of the semester today. Okay, so the onus is kind of being put on you. We're going to wrap things up and we're going to get through this. Okay, of course, if you have any questions, shoot me an email, let me know. But by the end of the day, I need to see at least your thesis, one sentence. Okay, send that to me. You need to get it approved. I will be writing back. I will be letting you know if I think you're good to go or you need to do some work. Okay, I'm sure I've forgotten many things, but I'll put it on the next video, and I'll be talking to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.